The only video you need for wholesaling real estate. What is up, guys? Zach Ginn here, and in today's video, I want to share with you exactly everything you need to know about wholesaling real estate in this video. So if you're confused of what is wholesaling, how do I get started, how do I find deals, how do I sell deals, how do I get sellers to accept my offer? This is going to be the ultimate video, heck, the only video you need to learn how to wholesale real estate. My name is Zach Ginn. I've done over 2,500 wholesaling real estate deals. And in the past 8 years of me getting into wholesaling real estate, I started at 17 years old. This business has blessed my life. And I've been on a journey here on YouTube for over 5 years now, giving you the power and the information of wholesaling absolutely for free. Now, there's no secret. When I give free wholesaling content, you guys send me more deals because I'm a wholesaler, not a real estate guru. So let's break this all down and let's get straight into it. So your first question getting into this business is, what is wholesaling, right? Like, we're watching this video, we're trying to understand what is wholesaling real estate. Now, excuse me, I have probably some of the worst handwriting in the world, but at the end of the day, this should hopefully help you out. I like to look at wholesaling as a relationship of three parties. Party number one, we have a person that owns a house. Let's call this person a quote seller, or the number one party in this transaction. Number two, we have us, you, or who we call wholesaler, or basically the number two party in this transaction. We are the wholesaler. This other person is called the seller. They're pretty upset right now. And number three here, who we call Mr. Moneybags, and let's just put money all around them because they got money. And the best way to think about this is called a cash buyer, or number three. Now, these are the three principal people in a wholesaling transaction. We have a seller, we have you, the wholesaler, and then three, we have this cash buyer. So really, to talk about it really easy and simple, we have a seller who's looking to sell their house. We find that person, lock up the contract, and sell it to cash buyer. Now, I'm not going to try to confuse you. Let's just use a simple wholesaling transaction to show you how easy this really is. I go and find this person who is obviously distressed and upset. They want to get rid of their really ugly house. And I say, well, I can go buy your house for $100,000. And they say, perfect. So what we do here is we write up a little paper saying, I agree to buy this house for $100,000. They agree to sell it for $100,000. Pretty cool. I just wrote a contract. What I'm going to do is bring that contract to this guy, the cash buyer, and say, hey, would you want to buy it for $20,000 above what I got it under contract for? So would you pay me a $20,000 finder's fee? He obviously is going to say, sure. And so what he's going to do is basically give $120,000 out of his bank account, $20,000 goes to us, and that same $100,000 goes to the seller. And really, if you want to put it more of a bullet point, I'll show you this. Number one, write contract with seller. Number two, sell contract to buyer for money. And number three, buyer pays us and seller. So hopefully this makes sense, but we first write a contract with the seller because we're buying their house. Then we basically sell that contract to number three, the cash buyer, for money. And number three, the buyer pays us our $20,000 and the seller their $100,000 that we agree to give them for the money. This is what wholesaling real estate is. We find somebody who wants to sell a house, we find people that want to buy houses, and we're the middleman in between. Every single industry, if you look at watches, if you look at diamonds, clothing, home goods, cars, decor, there's car wholesalers, there's people that sell it wholesale to sell it to the end buyer. Think about a wholesaler of fruit. What they do is they go to the farmer and buy the banana for $1, go to Walmart or Publix or Kroger, who has the end buyer consumers, and sell the banana to them for $1.50, and me as the middleman get paid 50 cents on the transaction. This is exactly what we're doing wholesaling, except we're not making $1, we're making $20,000. Now with wholesaling real estate, if I have to divide it into 3 parts, I divide it into marketing, acquisitions, and dispositions. That is it. So a little analogy right here, marketing, acquisitions, dispositions. So this is basically the art of finding deals. Acquisitions is writing up contracts, and dispositions is selling contracts. Pretty simple. So in wholesaling real estate, these are the 3 things you do on a daily basis. You find people who want to sell their house. You basically find the deals. You write up the contracts to buy the deals. Then you sell the deals for profit. Simple as that. Now, you might think of a lot of scary situations, right? So let's talk about each part of these to start going out here and finding and selling wholesaling deals. Let's start off with marketing. So what I'm going to ask you to do here in this little chart is to circle 1. That's all you need to do. In marketing, you either have lists, which you can get for free. So you have free lists and paid lists. You have free channels, and then you have paid channels. And what I mean by this is wholesaling, if you want to go find a deal, you either have lists or you have marketing channels. And what I mean by list is a list of somebody who is in a distressed situation where they're probably going to go out here and sell the property. This can be a code violation, driving for dollars, people behind on their taxes. You can also go and pay for a list and use a software to go and find people who have distressed properties. Free list, again, costs no money at all. Paid list, you have to pay for the software to find the deals. Same thing with marketing channels. There are ways for us to reach out to sellers that cost money and ways that don't cost money. So some free ways to get lists are code violations, liens, probates, water shutoffs, people not paying their water bill, heck, even a pre-foreclosure list, the evictions list, and technically you can do like MLS or on-market properties. And there's many more, but this is just for this example. Then there's paid lists, right? These are basically lists you can pay for, like high equities, people that don't owe a lot on their property, tired landlords, AI lists where AI will do a lot of the stacking for you. There's also stacked lists, lists that show up more than once. Zombie properties, which are basically pre-foreclosures that are vacant properties, properties where the United States Postal Service don't send any mail to them because no one's showing up to the mailbox. Then there's also other channels, right? There's free channels. There's cold calling, which you probably heard a lot about. There's texting, which actually is free with Google Voice. There's digital bandit signs. There's DMing or even messaging on Facebook. There's JVs. There's a lot of ways to find other wholesaling deals, right? And then there's also paid channels. So again, you can pay for cold calling, getting like a software for it, getting an SMS software, actual bandit signs. Heck, you can do PPC, SEO. You can run Facebook ads. Heck, you can even do direct mail. Now there's a lot more, but this is basically what you got to know. Now, what I want you to do is circle 1 for each one. So what I mean by this is if you're looking to find a wholesaling real estate deal, you have to circle 1 list and 1 channel, and that's basically how you find deals. Make it easy, make it simple. So let's say, for example, I'm going to choose a list. I can only circle 1. So let's just choose the probate list, people that passed away. It's a great list. What we're going to do next here is use a channel. Well, if I have no money, I can only choose one of these. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do cold calling right here. So basically, that's what we do. We can only circle 1 list and 1 channel. So probates is a free list. Cold calling is a free channel. That is what I'm going to do. Cold call the probates. That's how you get a deal. Maybe we do another one where I go to, let's say, xleads.com. I pull a list of vacants, and I'm going to go text blast them with smszac.com, right? That's basically how marketing works. You choose a list and you choose a channel. Some of them are inherently the same, like PPC and SEO, Facebook ads and direct mail, but pretty much that's how it works. If I'm going to do, let's say, a direct mail list, I'm going to go probably use high equity for that too. So I'm just circling 1. I'm trying to color code it, make it a little easier, but you have to choose 1. You can't go out here and do a bunch of different ones because you're a beginner and you're just getting started. Now, when you're more advanced, you can group them all in. For example, if you have a really big cold calling team, maybe you want to do all these lists and then you just want to cold call all of that. That is possible. That is something you can do. But I'm telling most people starting out, just choose 1 list and 1 channel and just stick to it. Now, there's also a secret one, which basically encompasses all of them, which is, I'm going to put right here. called Driving for Dollars, where you're basically driving, looking around for ugly houses, and you can either call or text these lists. But it's technically not a list, it's technically not a channel, it's kind of this weird in between. It's a great way to find wholesaling real estate deals. Now, when it comes to actually doing these wholesaling deals, you're going to find a really staggering stat. Some of these lists are going to have a really low quantity, which means, for example, if I go here and I try to pull the probates, I might only find 100 for the month of probates. And if I go try to pull tired landlords, I might get 5,000. So you might be like, why is there such a crazy discrepancy on the quantity? Well, sometimes lists, there's more of them, and sometimes there's less of them. But you're going to find paid lists have 20, 30x more than on the free lists. And you might be like, well, if there's more on the paid list, I want to do that. Well, there's a catch here. There's also another thing when we look at lists called quality. And we're going to find here are the free lists, which most people don't go after because they're a little more difficult to pull, are going to have higher quality than the paid lists because there's more people using the paid lists. So you're going to find basically, if we make a chart here, the most highest quality lists that are over here, and let's say we look at the lowest quality lists, are going to have the highest and lowest quantities. So for example, quantity is going to be really low for, let's say, a probate list, probably one of the top lists. And let's say kind of the lowest one's going to be like a high equity because it's just, there's so many of them, right? High equity, I can probably pull a list of like 30,000 for Dallas right now, right? And then probates, I only might get like 200. What you're going to find is, if we kind of get some more data points here, you're going to see that quality starts dipping really low at this point. And this little chart right here where the quality makes a drastic dump is when you start getting into the free lists. The reason why free lists right here start dumping in the amount of quantity is because these government type of lists aren't massive or huge. There's a lot of distress in these lists and not a lot of people go after them. So I always tell most beginners, if you are a brand new beginner, I would focus only on these type of properties right here because the quality is super high, like really good quality right here. Like there's a lot of good lists, which means you might only have to spend 5 or 6 hours to find a really good wholesaling deal versus a list kind of on the lower quality here, where you're probably gonna have to spend 30 or 40 hours to get a deal. So do you want to spend only 3 hours to get a deal, or do you want to spend 50 hours to get a deal? Duh, the answer is always going to be the 3 hours. Well, you're going to have a lot lower quality, and it's going to be a little more work to go get the list. But in my opinion, the free lists are always going to be better. And this is coming from a guy that owns a wholesaling software company. Yeah, I would love for you to sign up for X leads and go pull the highest quality list, but that's kind of more for the advanced wholesalers. Free is way better for finding wholesaling deals. Drawing for dollars is kind of its own thing. I would say it's kind of like over here, but you do need to know the difference between quality and quantity. I see so many wholesalers pull a list of 20,000 tired landlords and they're like, why don't I have a deal? Because you're going after lists that are kind of big, but the quality is really low. Now, the next part here on finding wholesaling deals is we're going to be able to find a bunch of deals by doing this, but we need to figure out if our deal is actually a deal or not. And this comes down to basically acquisitions. So a good part about acquisitions is figuring out, is it a deal or not? And how do I get under contract and figure out what price I should get under contract for? And you're gonna see a lot of these terms trying to figure out how much a deal is worth it or not with the terms ARV and MAO. And what I mean by this is you kind of saw this example earlier, right? Where basically I got under contract for 100 grand and a buyer bought it for 120. Your biggest question is, how do I know exactly if a buyer, how much the buyer would buy the deal for? Because if I knew a buyer could buy it for 120, of course I'd lock it up for 100. Well, there is a formula that we used here to figure that out, and let me show you right now. It's called ARV and MAO. And ARV basically stands for after repair value and max allowable offer. So really in under 5 minutes, you should be able to get any property in the United States and figure out how much you can offer them right off the bat and figure out this MAO or our max allowable offer, the most we can offer a seller. Now, specifically for ARV, there are certain rules that you need to follow here. Number 1, comps are king. And what I mean by that is comps or comparables, which means if I have a property right here, this is my house, and in let's say a square radius, there's these other houses that are really similar, right? What I'm gonna do is look and basically see this house sold for 3 months ago, this sold 4 months ago, this one's 7 months ago, 8 months ago, and 12 months ago. What I'm gonna figure out basically is if my house is a 3.2, 1,000 square feet, and this house right here was a 3.2, 1,000 square feet, I am basically gonna figure out how much that thing sold for. So if that property sold for $115,000, and this house, which was a 3.2, 900 square feet, sold for $140,000, I'm basically gonna divide and find a price per square foot, which means this property sold for $155 a square foot, this sold for $115 a square foot, and what I'm gonna do is just take an average and turn that into, let's say, $135 a square foot, multiply that by my 1,000, and that means I have $135,000, which is my ARV. That's how you find ARV. What you do is you just find comparables, right? You find similar properties that sold within, let's say, half a mile or a mile, get the average square foot that it sold for, and then average that in and just roughly guess how much your property is worth. What I'm gonna say here is when you're looking at other type of properties, plus or minus 300 square feet. And what I mean by this is if you're gonna go after a property, make sure it is at least 700 square feet and at most 1,300 square feet. Also, you wanna make sure that the properties you're looking for have the same bed and bath. Make sure the property is built in the same decade or 10 years. So if my house was built in 2000, I only want to deal with properties that sold that were built in 1990 or 2010. Make sure the properties are within a half a mile radius. And make sure the same house type is done. So if you have a concrete block house, do not compare that to a wood cabin that you see sold. And if you do this, you're going to figure out exactly what the average price per square foot is for the properties in the area, multiply that by the square feet of the property that you had the seller looking to sell, and you should figure out exactly what ARV is. Now that we know what ARV is, check, we need to figure out this new thing called repairs. Now I'm gonna explain exactly what repairs are. Repairs is how much work the property needs to bring it up to the perfect price. So when you're looking at comparables or sold properties, they're gonna look a lot nicer, sexier, and sleeker than the one that you have currently under contract. And that is actually okay. We wanna know exactly how much the property is worth on its best day. Minus off exactly the amount of work we have to get it there, and we're good to go. So that price that it needs to get it to that level, we're figuring out with repairs. And I have a pretty simple chart on this. And I like to go by square footage. So if it's 1,500 square feet or under, the property is 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, or if the property is 3,000 square feet or more. What I do is I have a little simple chart for figuring out repair costs, and I go by light. So if the property is less than 1,500 square feet, and it doesn't really need too much crazy repairs, I'd probably say $15,000 is what the repairs need to be on this. Now, if it's medium, I'd say 25,000. And anything above that, I'd probably put it at 60 if it needs really a lot of repairs. Now, I'd probably say 20,000 is the repairs if it's about 1,800 square feet, $30,000, and let's say 65,000. Now, if the property is over 3,000 square feet, there's obviously more repairs that need to be done on the property. 25,000 is probably gonna be at the cost for a light one, $40,000 for medium, and 75 grand if it's like a big repair. And this is roughly what your repair costs are gonna be looking at any single type of house. And I would have you screenshot this or use this. Again, this is all in freewholesaling.com, my free real estate wholesaling course. But basically, when you're trying to figure out your repair costs, that's what we use. So boom, ARV and repairs. And this brings us down to our formula, which is MAO. So if I know my property's ARV is $135,000, which is gonna be I'm gonna minus by the repairs, which let's say if we have 1,000 square feet and it's medium, we're gonna use 25,000. That is gonna be $110,000. And what we do here is we multiply it by our cash buyer multiplier. And what I mean by that is it's basically a percentage off the value of the home. And so this basically means that the percent can either be 70%, 80%, heck, even up to 83% here. Heck, even up to 83% here. And what I mean by this is this $110,000, that is the actual market value of the house. The house is worth right now $110,000 for my property for this example. This means if I throw this on the MLS, on the market with a nice realtor, the property is going to sell for $110,000. Now, our cash buyer, Mr. Moneybags that we're showing, he's not going to pay the market rate for that piece of house, for that piece of real estate. He wants a discount because he has to repair the property, put a lot of money into it, and then throw it on the market and make money for flipping it or as a rental property. He's going to require, based on square feet, 70% of the market value, 80% or 83%, or sometimes 85 if it's a higher market. So I'll tell you here roughly, if the ARV is 100K or under, they're going to want 70%. If we're between 120 and 250, you're probably going to be at 80%. And then anything above 300K or above, they're probably going to want 83%. They're willing to pay more, but again, you got to get a bigger discount. So let's say for this example, we're kind of 80%, so we'll do 80%. What that is going to equal for us is 110,000 multiplied by 80%, which is going to be $88,000. That is our MAO. So basically, we know we need to be below this price. That means if I go, let's go back up and plug these numbers in. If I find a seller who wants to sell their house, if they want to sell it for $70,000, I know internally I can sell it to Mr. Moneybags here for $88,000. And if they want to sell for $70K, guess what? I am going to make 18,000 smockaroos. And so that is the point here and the benefit of wholesaling real estate. I kind of have inside knowledge when I'm talking to the seller that my buyer will pay $118,000. And so if they want to sell for 80, I'll know and make $8,000. If they want to sell for 85, I'll know and make $3,000. I know exactly the inside information for wholesaling real estate. This is the power of wholesaling. That's why I love it so much. That is how you figure out exactly how much the deal is worth. Now, you might ask yourself, well, how do I close the deal? Well, I'll show you acquisitions. I'm not going to get into a full 3-hour breakdown on it because it's really simple. You are, number one, just going to lowball the seller. So when they say they want to sell their house, you are going to lowball them, which means if you know your MAO is $88,000, offer to buy it for 60 or 50%. I say roughly try to get an LAO, or least allowable offer, which is 7% of MAO. That's kind of the range that we like to go here on this channel, which basically means my first offer here is going to be around $61,000 to the seller. Now, they could say no. That's completely okay. But we can counter back at them and get a good negotiations here. What we like to do with our lowballs is do something called the good cop, bad cop close, which basically means, hey, Mr. Seller, I was talking to my partner Rick on the property, and he said he was looking to buy the property for around $61,000. You shut up, you see the reaction. See, you didn't offer $61,000. He just mentioned that's a price he might want to be buying the property for. This basically means that even if our lowball is insulting, they can only be mad at the bad cop and not me, the good cop, which means I can offer as low as I want, renegotiate and say, hey, I know that's way too low, but what price works for you? Negotiate, maybe write up for 70, make 18, go to town. And then my number 3 rule here for acquisitions is something called conditioning sellers. And what I mean by this is when you talk to your seller, right before you give the offer, you have to make sure that they make an agreement of a yes or no decision. This is really important, so I'm going to highlight it here, okay? One more time. When you talk to a seller who wants to sell their house, you basically say, hey, Mr. Seller, before I go reach out to you or meet you at the property, I want to make sure to respect your time and my time that you're ready to make a yes or no decision on selling the property. When I go see the property, I only go there once. I don't go there back and forth multiple times. So to respect your time and my time, when I go there, are you going to be able to make a decision on selling it? Yes or no? If they say yes, go, boom, give them a lowball offer. If they say no, wait for them for the right time for them to be able to make that decision right there. And that, guys and gals, is how you lock up deals and write contracts. Again, you might want to figure out where to find a contract. So I'll tell you, you're going to see me say this a lot, but I have a free contract. I actually have a free real estate wholesaling course. It's called freewholesaling.com. It is the largest wholesaling course in the country. I think we have over 250,000 students, and you can learn wholesaling real estate for free. Inside that course, you can download my contract for free. You can download my scripts and everything I say. You might be like, Zach, do you have other ways you lowball sellers? Is there other ways that you do repairs? Can I watch you cold call live and do any of these strategies? Like for example, I go here, how do I pull the pre-foreclosure list? In that free course, I actually show you how I pull the pre-foreclosure list. This is like a sample of what the course looks like. So you're gonna hear me talk about it a lot, but freewholesaling.com is my free course, and I do recommend everybody go there to check it out. Let's highlight this even more so you remember to go to freewholesaling.com, maybe subscribe while you're watching this. So the last part is what we call dispo or dispositions. Finding Mr. Moneybags, right? We want to go find Mr. Moneybags. Mr. Moneybags is called, again, a cash buyer. He's buying our house for cash. Now, you might ask yourself this question, what is a cash buyer? Well, a cash buyer is somebody who's looking to buy a house for cash. I mean, it's pretty simple. But what a cash buyer is looking to do is either two things. That is it. They're looking, number one, to buy the house and flip it for money. So they're looking to buy the house for 100 grand, put 10 grand into it and put it on the MLS and flip it for 160, make some money in between, right? Or number two, they're looking to buy the house and rent it for money. Your cash buyers are either looking to do one or two. That is it. Now, someone who's looking to flip a house, I call them a flipper or a rehabber. And somebody that is looking to rent out a property is basically a landlord to me. So that's it. You're looking for flippers or landlords. Simple as that. So if you're looking to find a buyer, so once you get a deal under contract, how do you find buyers? Well, if you have no money, I'm going to tell you, number one, Zillow.com is probably going to be your best resource. They have the for rent section, which you can find a lot of landlords. Heck, you can go into Facebook groups where there's a bunch of other buyers. You can post your deal on Craigslist, which not the biggest fan of, but you can do. And also you can JV and find other wholesalers who have buyers lists like me, and I can sell your deal for you. Now, these are basically the free ways to do it. If you have no money, stick to these. Now, if you have money, there's a lot easier ways to sell your deals. In my opinion, you should use XLeads. XLeads.com is basically the all-in-one wholesaling software. I'm not here to promote it. But basically, it is the only software where you can go out here and dispo your deal really quick and really simple that is also connected with your Drawing for Dollars app, your list pulling and all these things, where basically you just use the X buyers list inside of XLeads.com and you can input the zip code and find the top buyers there, email blast them, create a deal posting, get it sold quick. That's a really good way to do it. On top of this too, you can cold call cash sales, which you can do obviously inside of XLeads. You can email your buyers, which you can do through XLeads. You can text buyers that you find on XLeads. And number 9, no XLeads here. But you can basically find realtors going for the sold properties of cash sales, which you can pull the list on XLeads technically. So these are my 9 favorite ways to go out here and sell your wholesaling real estate deal. There's other ways you can do it. You know, if I want to put number 10 here, you can even like make a white bandit sign. So you can go to Home Depot, have a little sign that says 3-2 for sale. Stick it in the ground and put, you know, like a phone number right there and people will call it. And that's a good way to sell a deal too sometimes. You can either go to your local real estate investing association meeting and there's buyers there too. So a lot of great ways to sell your wholesaling real estate deals. And what you're basically gonna do from there is you're gonna just basically walk the buyer through the house. They say yes or no on buying it. And basically, boom, you sell the deal. So all the paperwork needed for a wholesaling real estate deal are 2 things. Number 1 is what we call our PSA, our purchase and sale agreement. And then right here, which is basically our assignment. And basically what our purchase and sale does is this is the contract to buy to buy the house, and this is our contract to sell the deal. So that's basically all the contracts you need. If you're looking to buy the deal from the seller, you write up a purchase and sale agreement to buy it, and then once you find a buyer, he's ready to buy it from you, you have him sign the assignment, which is basically you selling your contractual rights to the buyer for that assignment fee, that moolah, baby. And then you get checks like this in the mail of your assignment fee. This one's just $4,000, so not really a crazy big wholesaling deal. But once the deal closes, you get your check, you get your money, and keep going, right? So the timeline of the wholesaling deal I want to show you, which is basically 30 days to your first wholesaling deal. Do day 0, day 7, day 14, and let's say day 30. So basically what we do here, so if you look at like a timeline here, day 0, day 7, day 14, and day 30, right? We basically find a seller. So we find a seller, then we get a deal locked up. So we basically, AKA write a contract. Day 14, we basically find our buyer, AKA selling the deal. So sold deal. And then day 30, you close at the title company, close that title. So the last thing we have to talk about here are basically title companies. They're basically going to be our third party intermediary in the transaction. They handle the title paperwork for the seller, getting the closing all set, working with the buyer to get our assignment fee. You definitely need a title company. At Wholesaling.com, we basically teach you how to do that too and how to work with them. But really what you got to do is just call title companies and ask them if they do, quote, assignment of contract. And you're going to find about only 10% do, and that's just because they're mostly boutiques based off of high bougie realtors and not for investors. But about 10% of title companies are for investors, so those are ones you're going to find. Pretty much any big city has them. You can even go into our Discord and find people telling you, or a Facebook group, and then you're good to go. And that's basically the wholesaling real estate process. You find a seller, let's say for 100 grand, locked up for 100 grand, sell it for 120, you get your $20,000 check, just like the checks we get here, and boom, you're good to go for wholesaling real estate. The one thing I do want to end it off of, so you understand, are there is an incredible amount of tools that I have to teach you wholesaling real estate for free. Number one, we have freewholesaling.com. This is the Mac Daddy. This is the free wholesaling course. I would say this is where everybody should be right now to sign up. It costs no money at all, and I teach you wholesaling real estate for free. I do not have a full 8 hours to sit down with you to show you how to wholesale real estate step by step, the entire process. Basically, in a long binge of a week, you can get through the whole course. It's a lot. The first 2 videos is actually a live event I did where I sat down 2 days, 8 hours straight, of how anyone can make their first $100,000 in wholesaling real estate. I give it to you guys for free because that is something I think is really important to start off the course. And then getting nitty gritty, watching me wholesale live and seeing me actually do it really in person, looking over my shoulders the best way. So I definitely recommend you go to freewholesaling.com. On top of this too, obviously this YouTube channel is going to be an amazing source too. I do my YouTube lives all the time where you can ask me live questions. So I definitely recommend if you're on this YouTube channel watching this, you subscribe because I go live every Tuesday and Thursday on the Flipler YouTube channel. That is an amazing source for you to get wholesaling deals. On top of this too, I have a community on Discord. It's called ZachDiscord.com. It's free, where you can hop on a Discord with thousands of other wholesalers and people following me, where we do daily accountability. We talk to you, we work. There's other 6- and 7-figure wholesalers who just want to help you out. It's a great community to be in that costs no money at all. I also have a Facebook group. That Discord is called Wholesaling Houses for Real, but you just go to ZachDiscord.com, get the invite like that. And also, I go live every Friday in that Discord if you want to ask me personal questions. I also have a Facebook group. There's around 145,000 people in there. It's called Wholesaling Houses for Real. It's an amazing Facebook group too. But overall, these are the best tools right now for your wholesaling real estate success. Most people are going to charge you $5, $6, $7, $8, heck, even $10,000 to get the course, the community, and just hopping on and look and watching me live and watching them live. You have to spend probably around $10,000 for this information. But I'm the only person on YouTube that gives it all out for free. So take advantage of it. Go right here, go to freewholesaling.com, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hop on my live streams. I do them at 1 o'clock Eastern every single week, Tuesday and Thursday. Join my Discord, zachdiscord.com, to join a community of wholesalers learning for free. Guys, this was an awesome video of learning how to get started in wholesaling real estate. Hopefully you continue your journey. Go to freewholesaling.com, subscribe to the channel. Let's get some money. This is Zach Ginn signing out. Have a blessed one.